Slimehouse TV, myself Theo Kane, welcome back to Toy Talk Tuesday, and first of all, hold tight the Slime Alliance if you're watching this 2 weeks in advance. I've got a new tier on my Patreon where you can pay a little bit more. It's a $5 a month and you can become part of the Slime Alliance, and you get stuff like access to these videos 2 weeks early. So if you're watching this before anybody else, then big ups, much respect, I appreciate you. So in today's episode, I want to talk about when to walk away. If you're a toy collector, a toy dealer, or any kind of guy that's been in that like buying, selling, trading, collecting kind of community, you're always going to get an opportunity where you get offered something and you need to know how much it's worth to you, how much you're willing to pay for it, and then also when to walk away. So recently I was offered a big haul, really cool stuff, lots of stuff that I wanted in there, some stuff that I'd be able to sell on and make some money on and flip and that kind of thing. And it went through a bit of a negotiating process, and then in the end I had to kind of walk away, and today I'm going to tell you about that, some of the experiences that I've had within this kind of field, and then hopefully at the end you can tell me your experiences and if you've ever had to walk away from a toy deal that you really wanted but in the end it just wasn't worth it to you. So as many people know that watch this show, I was raised by a toy dealer. My dad was not only dealing and buying and selling toys, he was buying and selling antiques and loads of stuff. He was flipping everything. He was a real wheeler dealer, my dad. He still is. And there was many times as a kid where he would take me along to go buy big hauls of toys, either from other dealers that had picked it up that were selling off stuff cheap because they wanted to offload a load of stuff. We would also get calls from like other dealers that weren't into toy collecting, but they'd picked up a load of stuff, and because my dad's a well-known guy at the car boots and stuff, they would holler him and he would go around and buy it all off them. And then we would also get ones where a mum was selling off all their kids' toys out of the loft, out of the shed, out of the kids' bedroom, whatever. And it makes me laugh whenever I hear people and they say, oh, my mum sold all my toys. Some man come round and bought them all. She sold them all without telling me. I'm thinking, yo, that was my dad. But I've been on this for so many years that over the years we've had some really nice, tidy toy hauls. And since I like went at it on my own and that kind of thing, I've had lots of opportunities to buy lots of stuff. Sometimes it's been awesome. Sometimes it's been not so awesome. But you always have that predicament of like, what's your cutoff point? When can you say, do you know what? This is just too expensive for me. Or do you know what? This is too much of a workload for what I'm going to get back, that it's just not worth it to me personally. But when you do get that call, when you do get that initial message, it's awesome. You get a few holy grail toy hauls a few times in your life. They don't come around very often. And as the older that we get and the more time passes, these become more and more sparse. These toys become more and more rare. More of them end up in the hands of collectors and dealers or get trashed and that kind of thing. There's less and less of it. A lot of these toys that we collect are like 40, 50, 60, 20, 30 years old now. So there's less and less of them about. So when you do get that call, you get that message, you get that email, however it comes, you're always buzzing. And like I said, in my life, there's been many times where I've had a call to go around someone's house and check out what they've got. Obviously, the person that's selling this stuff, 9 times out of 10 wants to get the best price possible. And the person buying this stuff wants to pay the least amount for it. And there's always that toss-up of you not wanting to rip anyone off, so you want to give them a good price. It is with me anyway. And also that the person wants to let them go, but not for too cheap. Because nowadays with stuff like eBay and that kind of thing, it's so easy for people to go online and have a look up of prices of things and see what stuff's worth. But then they also have to take into account how much effort it's going to be to put all that stuff on eBay themselves. And that's something I'm going to talk about in this episode as well. You also get those toy hauls where you end up paying a little bit more than you wanted to, either because it's not worth as much or because it's going to be a lot of work to get rid of this stuff and sell it on. And some of these toy hauls can take years to sell. They can take 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I've had stuff that was on my Toy Fair stall for years and years before I sold it, and then probably ended up letting it go for a lot less than what I wanted to, just to get rid of it so I don't have to look at it again. And the big predicament for me is that I'm not a toy flipper or dealer or anything like that. I don't really sell toys. I'm much more of a collector. I'm a lover of toys. I like to collect them. I want to keep them. I want every toy line that ever existed. I don't want to sell them. But every now and again, I'll come across a load of toys in a haul or get offered something like a big attic full of toys, and I'll take the ones out that I want, and then I have to sell the ones that I don't want, either to make up the money that I've spent or because I just generally don't want them for whatever reason. There's been many times in my life where even though I'm not a toy dealer, I do deal and sell a lot of toys. And there's been lots of times when I've been at someone's house and they've had all the stuff laid out on the table and we've spent like an hour back and forth trying to work out a deal that they're happy with, and they're just not happy with it. And I'm trying to think in my head, like, how long is it going to take me to sell all this stuff? Where am I going to store it in the meantime? Am I going to be able to flip this stuff quick? And there's been many times where after an hour I've said, you know what, just put it back in the loft because I don't think you're ready to sell it. I don't think you're ready to sell it. If that's the price that you're wanting, taking into account all the work I'm going to have to do to move this on, like, I think it's best you just put it back in your loft, and I'll walk away and I'll go home and I'll fuck it off and I'll just forget about it, or try and forget about it, because quite often there's some really good stuff in there, and the toy haul that I'm going to tell you about today had some really good stuff in it. There's also the fact of when you buy toys to sell on, you don't want to spend £800 on a haul to make £900 on it, to make £1,000 on it. Quite often when you're buying something to sell it, you want to at least double your money. If I spend £500 on some toys, I want to make £1,000 on them, because for all the effort it's going to take for me to put into it, it's not worth me spending any more than that. I don't want to spend £700 to make £800. It's not worth me doing it, which is why most of the time I'm just a toy collector. I just like to buy this stuff. I like to come across it. I like to hunt it down. And like I said, every now and again you will get a big toy haul, and there's some stuff in it that you want, and there's some stuff that you're going to have to sell, and you end up in that predicament where, how much is it worth to me personally? Side note, a really annoying other call that you get, and it's funny because I was just saying how easy it is to search stuff on eBay. I will get people that hit me up, quite often people that never speak to me. Like, I haven't spoken to this person for 10 years. And I also hold myself as the kind of guy that you don't have to speak to me all the time. I've got some good friends that I don't speak to years, and then I'll call them up or they'll call me up and we have a catch up and stuff like that. And then I do have other friends that only ring me when they want something. And sometimes I'll only ring them when I want something, and we joke about that. And they're a friend that, you're a good friend, but I ring you when I need something and I wish you well, but we do ring each other when we want a favour. You do have those kind of friends as well, and I accept that. But I'm talking about people that just ring you up out of the blue, message you on Facebook or Instagram, never speak to you, are not a close friend or anything like that, and they are like, oh, I've just been in my loft and found all these games consoles. Are they worth out, pal? I've found all these toys in the shed. Are they worth out? Just pick this up in a charity shop. I know you collect toys. How much is it worth, do you think? And first of all, I'm just like, I'm not your personal valuer. I'm not your personal guide to how much stuff's worth. I've spent years researching this stuff and flushing out probably loads of important information that I should have kept in my brain for the sake of filling it with toy information. So I'm not your personal valuer. If you're my personal friend, I don't mind, I'll do that all day. If you're just a random person that I barely know and you're going to hit me up and ask me for the value of something, it's a bit of a disrespect. And secondly, it's so easy to look what a brand of a toy is, what the date of it is, go on eBay and find out how much the sold listings are. And then you get the people who don't look at the sold listings, they look at a buy it now price and think that's what it's worth. So these are all the kind of people that you get in the world of buying and selling toys, and they're all the reason why I like to just collect toys and just leave it at that. So back to this big toy haul that I got offered recently. It was a really cool haul, and the person that got in touch with me was via a friend of a friend, and they'd inherited this toy collection off someone that passed. It wasn't their own collection, so they didn't know how much it's worth. They didn't know the names of any of the toys. They got in touch with me and said, I've got all this stuff. Here's all the pictures. Make me an offer on it. And I always hate making an offer on something because I kind of feel like you're buying it and selling it at the same time. So you want me to think up a price for you to sell it to me, and then I give you the money. So I'm like selling it and buying it at the same time. But I appreciate that not everybody knows about toys, and this wasn't a case of someone having a few figures that they could have looked at on eBay. This person had like a whole room's worth of stuff. This was like if I died and gave all my toy collection to somebody that doesn't understand it. I appreciated that they didn't know how much it's worth. So I also appreciated that I didn't want to rip them off. I could have been that snaky guy, but I will never be that person. Like, I don't know how some people can sleep soundly at night knowing that they've been a cunt and they fuck people over and snaked them. Like, I can never be that person. I'm way too real for that shit. So I had to be honest with this person and say, you've got some good gear. Some of it is really good. They had a hotspot. They had 2 yak face. They had a man. They had lots of dope figures in this haul. And it was someone who, very much like myself, is a collector of all different genres of vintage toys. They amassed a collection that went all the way back to like the 70s to the early 2000s. They loved it all, very much like me. So I kind of, in a strange way, I related to this person that was no longer with us, because I thought, yeah, do you know what? He's got a collection very similar to mine. And also very similar to mine, he had a lot of toys that weren't really worth anything. He had toys that were cool, but they're not worth a lot, and they would take a long time for me to sell. And like I said, this person had a room full, and they lived at the other side of the country. So I would have had to get one of my friends to drive us, hire a van, spend about 80 quid on petrol, £100 on petrol, because it was like the other side, the arse end of the country. Would have had to get down and then get back, put all this stuff in a van, get it back to my house, find somewhere to put it all, because it would have took over a whole room, and it would have took me months to go through it all, and then to sell it all. Let's just put a pin in that point then. So let's say I was going to take it to eBay First thing I've got to do is I've got to research all the current prices on this thing, and I would have had to find out all the individual weapons because they weren't bagged, they'd all just been put in storage. So I would have had to go through each individual piece and put all the weapons with each thing, and I know 99.9% of what weapon goes with what figure because I've been on this for so long. Like I said, I've got a toy Wikipedia in my head, but I don't know all of them, so I'd have to do all that research, and then I'd have to find out the current prices, and then I've got to list it all, and then I never like doing eBay because then you have to package everything off and send it, and people say it's not arrived, and they piss you about, and eBay takes a big whack of the money and that kind of thing. So I never really like doing eBay. I will do eBay if I have to do it, but I don't really like doing it. I prefer to do toy fairs. But then toy fairs, you're not forced to sell all this stuff in one toy fair. Like, you would have to make everything stupid cheap just to get rid of it. So you're going to end up having to do toy fair after toy fair after toy fair to get rid of all this stuff. And even then, you're probably still going to be left with like a good 40-50% of it. So anyway, back to the toy haul that I really wanted. Now, this person, like I said, had some really nice pieces in the toy haul, and I offered him a price that I honestly could afford. I offered him a price that I could afford. The stuff in there was worth more than what I offered him, but again, I would have to move a lot of it. A lot of it I would sit on for ages because there was a lot of trash in there, and then also there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to keep. I want a hotspot. I haven't got a hotspot in my TMNT collection. I would love one. So if I get that hotspot, I'm getting it to keep. I'm not getting it to sell. I wouldn't mind a man and a yak face in my Kenner Star Wars because I talk about them a lot in videos, so it would be nice to have them in videos to show. I don't want to sell them. So once I start picking out all the stuff of the collection that I actually want for myself, you end up with not a lot of stuff that you can just flip quick to make your money back. So like I said, I offered him a price that I was happy to pay, and on top of that, I also said I would have to hire a van. I'd have to put petrol in the van, and it was a good like 5-hour drive away to go pick this up and then come back. So you're talking like a full day of this stuff, and it was a whole van load, so I'm gonna have to put it in storage or find somewhere in my house to keep it, spend months and months and months going through it all, and in the end I just had to say, look, this is my offer and this is all I can offer and this is the reason why. And they didn't go for the offer. So I could have offered more money, but it was like, do you know what? You get to a point when you have to walk away. And in that situation, I walked away. And I think after when I spoke to the person, he said that he'd got in touch with a toy shop and they were going to come and have a look at it. And in this situation, a toy shop was probably the best place for it because this is going to be a lot of stuff that the people are going to sit on for a long time. They can also probably afford to put a lot more into it because they can afford to sit on it for longer. And they're probably not going to want to keep the hotspot and the man and the yak face and all the other figures that I wanted to take out of it to keep for myself. When you're a toy collector, you're always torn when it comes to that dealer side of stuff because you don't really want to sell anything. You want to keep stuff, and if it's rare and if it's hard to get and if you've not got it in your own collection, 9 times out of 10, you want to keep that stuff for yourself. So in this particular situation, although it was hard to walk away from because like I said, there's such little of this stuff around now, these things come around less and less, I had to walk away from it. And although I still think about this haul and I still think, oh, if I'd have offered a bit more, I could have had that, I'm content with the fact that I offered him what I was willing to offer him, knowing all the effort that we're going to go into getting this and then selling it and moving it on and making my money back and stuff. And you think, you know what, for all that stress and all that time and all that effort, I definitely made the right decision. So I hope you enjoyed today's Toy Talk episode. Bit of a different one, but I'd be very interested to know if anybody else who watches this channel has had a similar situation. I'm pretty sure you must have if you're a toy collector or a trader or anything like that, where you've been offered a big haul and you've really had to just like step back and walk away because although it was good stuff and you didn't want to turn it down and you didn't want anyone else to get hold of it, and a lot of the time I don't want this stuff to fall into the hands of dealers that are just going to up and up the prices and grade them and turn them into money making items. I want to treasure that in my own collection and look after it and appreciate it for the piece of what it is, the art, the toy, and that's why I'm always torn. But I don't want this to end up in the hands of people like that. So I would be very interested to know other people's stories that have had to deal with these similar situations where they've had to say no to stuff and walk away. And it probably happens more than you think. People think that when there's a lot of toys there, it's just cash sat there waiting, and it really, really isn't. This stuff takes a long time to sell at the right price. Not only have you got to know how much this thing's worth and stuff, you've also got to then research what's the best place to sell it. If I got a load of Transformers, I think, okay, shall I put these on eBay, or am I going to be better putting these on a Transformers specific Facebook group and selling all the individual parts? And I've got to work out what every individual weapon is, and if I've not got the robot that goes with, I'm gonna have to sell that separate or bundle them up. This is all stuff you have to take into account that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to selling vintage toys. So like I said, I would love to know your opinions on today's subject, and if you've got any experience in that field of buying, selling, getting all the big hauls and when to walk away, I would love to hear about that. As always, my name's Theo Kane. This is Slimehouse TV. Don't forget to binge the back catalogue because we do one of these every Tuesday. And like I said, I've now got a new tier on my Patreon called the Slime Alliance. And if you want to become part of the Slime Alliance, it's £5 a month and you'll get access to these videos 2 weeks early, as well as anything else that I finish early. I also drop on there exclusive as well. And I've also got some other stuff that I'm going to be toying with, putting on there as well. But more on that at the right time. In the meantime, I'm Theo Kane. You can also get at me on Instagram at Theo_Kane_Slimehouse, because I always want topics to talk about here on Toy Talk Tuesday. So if you've got any topics that you'd like to hear me discuss and we can discuss together in the comments below after here on Toy Talk Tuesday, then please let me know. Please put them to me either in the comments below or in a private message on Instagram. With all that said, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this episode. My name's Theo Kane, and until the next time, I'm done.